Welcome back, everyone. My name is Ardog with the Triple G, and I'm back with Wangle and Grady. We just finished watching the series between PTAB versus the Professors, and Professors will move forward tomorrow to the semifinals. But now we will be watching Dirty Lake and the Boys versus Flowstate. This is the second quarterfinals of the day. So who will be going against the Professors tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 5 p.m. CET? That we will have to see as we go into this series. Talking about this series though, let's take a look at the head-to-head stats. All right, Grady, talk to me about what you're seeing on the screen here.
So both teams very similar KDA, so both teams like to fight well, and they do get things from their fights. We did see in our last head-to-head that the Professors had over, it was over 5 point, if not close to 6 point, if I'm not mistaken. So both teams like to fight, but not quite as much as the Professors. So both teams still really like to have their farm and have some downtime on the map. In terms of objective control, Flowstate very strong in that department, whereas DLAB kind of lacking a little bit in comparison. And in terms of the gold per minute, we're almost identical, really close. First time that we've seen that, and I'm not sure if we're going to see that anymore today, so really cool to see that. Damage per minute also only about 200 off, so very similar in that department. And in terms of CS, I mentioned before, both teams like their farm, and 31.8 CS per minute versus 31.5 CS per minute definitely shows that there.
What else are you seeing with the bans and the picks there, Wangle?
So on the side of DLAB, most picked is the Drongo. They love to have Lakenator on that Drongo, just so he can play safe in lane, be able to farm up on his own, be kind of more independent, as Toasty does like to roam around the map. And Jay on the Kira is a very classic pick that we've seen from Flowstate, something that's popped up a lot in this tournament. He really thinks Kira is in a strong spot at the minute. And something I want to call out, though, is Huang is the most banned for Flowstate. It is a pick that Lobber really seems to like from previous scrims, from previous group stage. So, you know, Lobber might be put off the Kwang, might have to go onto some of his other picks, like the Zarus. Maybe we'll see the Sev pop up again.
And one of the heroes that both teams really like, though, is the Lieutenant Bellica. Grady, what are you seeing on the screen?
So as we can see, just like with Richter, Lieutenant Bellica, very common pick, super flexible, can play mid or support, and just a character that can fit into pretty much every single team comp that you could imagine. 68 games played, 70% pick rate, 70.42% to be exact, 25.35% ban rate, and a 60% win rate. So we're seeing this character, we're either seeing it in the draft as a pick or a ban, and if it goes on a team, 60% win rate means it's most likely going to win, depending on whose hands it's in.
And one thing
Bellica
I would like
is
to
just
mention,
one of those heroes, but yes, go ahead, Wangle.
Yeah, real quick, something I'd like to call attention to is in the previous patch that has dropped in between group stage and this main stage event, is Bellica has been nerfed. So whether we'll see these kinds of stats, I doubt it. They're probably going to be slightly lower. However, it is still a flex pick. Teams really love having flex picks in drafts. It allows them to move something to wherever they think it's most powerful in. It is still good mid. It is still good support. Gwusi especially, every time that I see Gwusi on Bellica, I've never seen somebody hit more 3-man knockups. It's kind of ridiculous at this point, but 4 people in this game that I think are very comfortable picking the Bellica, so it can be a staple pick during the series.
Definitely didn't see Lieutenant Bellica with that first series though, but just like what you both mentioned, Bellica just able to cause a lot of upset depending on which side she is in, and that win rate of 60%, that's quite a bit. But let's talk a little bit more about these teams. Grady, I think you got some insider knowledge about DLAB. Talk to me about them.
So I'm speaking as a former teammate of DLAB. I played with them, if I'm not mistaken, in PCC4 and PCC5. So very strong players in every role. Have Appy Picker in mid lane, Norf, their new jungler in this PCC, Lauber, the offlaner, and then the Canadian duo lane of Toasty, Lakeinator, both best friends that have known each other for a very long time. Very strong team all across the board. They really know how to play the map well together, and they know how to play off of whoever is generating that gold income and prioritizing them in terms of wherever they are on the map. So not a team that's one-dimensional. They could play through any lane, and they're very strong all across the board.
They've always been in our finals or in the semifinals, but they haven't secured a championship yet. Is it going to be PCC number 7? Who knows? But Flowstate, Wangle, what can you tell us about them?
So it's a team that's been together for the most part for a while now. Simba, Jay, and Gwissy all playing together for a while, and Peak was the sub for offlane last PCC. He played a couple scrims with them, so very much a team that's very together. And it's going to be kind of a weird match because Bry was the mid laner for DLAB last PCC, very much known for his Iggy pick. Wonder if we're going to see that come out yet, or come out during this set. I don't know. We haven't seen it yet so far in the finals. But Bry has always been close friends with Simba, with Jay, with Gwissy, like that kind of. They're a very close knit kind of friend circle. So he's fit really well into this team. They're playing really well. They're taking games off of top teams in scrims. So I think this is going to be one of the more interesting. I think this is probably the most interesting match of the quarterfinals. I don't know which way it could go.
I have no idea either, but we got to do some predictions. And I did ask Grady this question the first time with the series, but Wango, I'm going to ask this question to you. Who are you expecting to win this series? Dirty Lake and the Boys or Flowstate?
So they played in group stage, and DLAB did come out as the winners. However, both teams, I think, have gotten significantly better. But I think DLAB in recent scrims have been looking very, very strong, even against the top favorite teams for the tournament. So I'm going to have to go with DLAB.
He's locking in DLAB. And what about you, Grady?
I'm a little bit biased, like I said, former teammate at DLAB. I wish nothing but the best for those guys. Strong showings every single time, and I don't know. I definitely have to say I'll give it to DLAB. I do think Flowstate is going to have a really strong showing. They have taken games off of DLAB. They are very close in skill, but I do think DLAB have the edge in the experience, so that is definitely why I have to give it to DLAB.
I know with the previous series, I picked against whoever you guys picked, but I am going to lock in DLAB as well. I'm a fan of the Canadian duo from DLAB, and of course Lauber lives in Canada. I'm from Canada, so I'm going to be supporting Dirty Lake and the Boys. But now that we've had our predictions in, let's look at this draft.
And I will say just real quick, I do think whichever way the set goes, my prediction is a 2-1.
It's a 2-1, okay. Grady, picks and bans, what are the priorities for both of these teams?
So I have been seeing Simba playing a lot of Richter. If DLAB's been doing their homework, they could take him off that, knock him off of a comfort pick, or they might be able to just pilot that or deal with them getting the Richter. I know Flowstate really, really likes to prioritize heavy control picks. They like their Deckers, they like their Bellicus, they like their Richters, even the Argus. DLAB already taken the Argus off the table. DLAB saying Argus is really strong. We don't want Bry to have that in his hands. We saw him in the Swiss stage and the group stages piloting the Argus. Very strong showing, so a character he's comfortable with and a character that he can definitely do some damage with. Flowstate, not really sure what they want to take off of the table. We saw that they really like to ban the Kwong. Norf and Lauber, both very strong Kwong players. I think Lauber is the one that typically gets the Kwong if it goes to DLAB, and it's just a strong offlane pick overall. He has seen some nerfs, but even with those nerf bats, Kwong is not showing any signs of resistance. Very strong pick, even still now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is going to be one of the hardest drafts to predict. I feel both teams have multiple different comps. Everyone has a lot of different picks. There's a couple things that I think will be staples in this series. I think Steel offlane on the side of Flowstate. We're going to see a Kalari ban over on the side of Flowstate. Norf is the type of guy that will pick these type of picks. He will pick the Kalari jungle. He even, in rarer scenarios, has picked Sereth jungle in some of the Friday night tournaments. That one's probably not going to happen today, but it's the fact that these type of picks can come out. The reason that they're going to get banned, the reason that Flowstate are kind of evaluating them. But I would say the easiest to predict lanes here are probably going to be off lane. We're probably going to see Zarus priority, Steel priority for the side of Flowstate. Peak, very much known as the Steel off lane guy. Not many other people are playing it as much as, especially not as much as him. And then we're going to be looking at Kwong picks as well. So those three champions are going to be the main staples for off lane. But everywhere else on the map, we might see a Kira and a Drongo, but can kind of go down many routes, and we do see the Zarus there, first pick for DLAB.
So Zarus getting locked in as first pick. We saw Press Tab heavily prioritizing the Zarus pick. We don't know exactly where the Zarus is going to go because it could go to North or it could go to Lauber. Very strong first pick locked in for DLAB. But Flowstate, there's a lot of stuff on the table for them, right? We have Bellica, we have Decker, we have Richter, we have Rampage. Lots of really strong picks across the board. Interested to see what they want to go for. In traditional Flowstate fashion, like I said previously, they really like to prioritize heavy control. So I do expect to see maybe a Decker Bellica, maybe a Richter Bellica, maybe that Nerf bat hit Bellica a little hard like Wengel said, and maybe we see them stray away from that Bellica pick. So I'm interested to see what the first two picks from Flow State will be. They could look to take away the Drongo from Lakeinator because Jay also has a strong Drongo of his own. It looks like, however, we are going to see that Bellica and we are going to see Flowstate take the Kwong. So instead of banning it, they want to pick the Kwong. We don't know exactly where it's going to go just yet, so a very strong flex pick. We see Sevarog and Drongo being locked in, so we know where the Xerxes is going to go. We know where the Sev is going to go. Drongo being locked in for Lakeinator. Tourney Day comfort pick for him, and just a strong ADC pick overall. So Lauber on his own comfort pick as well. The unstoppable Swedish force. Sevarog is a character that he is known for. The character he is known for. He is the Sev guy. So definitely a strong pick being locked in for DLAB.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing to note about this draft is the Zar Sevarog will be a double flex. North seemed to be the only jungler consistently playing Sevarog jungle in the group stage, in the play-ins. It is something that he's very comfortable on, something that he looks very strong on. So Zara Sevarog can be double flexed. We do see the steal. So double flexes on both sides. Both teams have the option to go either way with the draft. The Sevarog into the Kwong or Steel does get to scale pretty well. But if the Sevarog goes into the jungle and the Zarus goes offlane, the Zarus can't really run down the Kwong as easily, but it can kill the Steel. So there's a lot of interesting matchups that we could see between these two lanes. The Iggy getting banned for DLAB, getting Bry off of that signature pick, something that allows him to just sit in mid lane, scale up, contest wave pressure, and do lots of damage to a comp that wants to run forward. And the Narbash ban for Flowstate, again, something that allows teams to run forward very hard, become very tanky, get a lot of get good scaling, but also good pressure. Again, I don't really know what we're gonna see from these last two picks on either side. Gideon coming out for Flowstate, very strong in the previous series we saw. Bry very good at it as well, and really good looking comps on both sides so far.
I do want to point out that in our top three and both bans for both teams, no Richter to be seen. So very interesting, as both these teams do like to play Richter. Richter, very strong pick overall. Nobody picking up the Richter, nobody banning the Richter, so no one's even scared of the Richter as it stands. Richter still available for DLAB. They have not locked in the support pick yet. I do see that the toasty Narbash, the signature Narbash. We saw him solo cold with Narbash in my 1v1 Grady's Gauntlet tournament. It was an iconic moment. Everyone loved to see it. So if you're able to solo an ADC as Narbash, you know you got some hands on Narbash. But FaZe and Howitz are going to be the last two picks locked in for DLAB. So we have the FaZe Drongo lane, the Appy special Howitzer going into the Gideon. Typically, Gideon is a rough matchup for the Howitzer, but Appy saying, Bri, I'm not scared of you. I got some hands and I'm going to show them to you. And I got some R2000s to go with them. Kira being locked in as the last pick for Flowstate. We know that Jay loves his Kira, and he's going to show us what he can do with the Kira. Both these comps are looking pretty powerful from both of these teams. Wengle, what do you think about them?
On the side of Flowstate, very much a press R type of comp. You have the Steel ult, you have the Gideon ult, they want to combo together. The Kwang as well can hit the tether and like cause picks with that. You do have the Bellica to follow up on the tether, Steel CC. They like these kind of CC pick comps. It's something that they played a lot during groups. They have very good team fighting capabilities. The main thing I would look out for is DLAB playing for first mini prime onto the Zarus and allowing him to push in the Steel, as the Steel doesn't have anything good to clear the wave. So that might be the main weakness with their comp. And then the DLAB comp, very brawly, scales very well as well. So good comps on both sides.
I gotta ask though, Grady, Wangle did mention that DLAB's comp scales really well, but what's the strategy with their team comp going into game number 1?
So for DLAB, it depends on where the Sevarog is going to go. We're not really sure what the matchups are going to be because, as mentioned before, we got flex options. Xeris and Sevarog could go either in the jungle or the off lane, and then on the same side of Flowstate, Steel Kwang could go in the jungle or the off lane. So matchup dependent, depending on where these matchups are line up. If it's a Sevarog Steel matchup in the off lane, Lobber's going to have a very fun time over there with the free scaling matchup. They'll probably put him over on an island, and they're going to look to prioritize making things happen in mid and in duo. So I believe if we get Sevarog over in the off lane and we get some action happening early in the mid and the duo lane, that is going to be DLAB's key to victory here.
Dirty Lake and the boys versus Flowstate. Get those points in, get those predictions in, everybody. This is game number 1 in this best of 3 series. We're sending it to TJ, DJ, and Tang.
There are 3 things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and a banger series when TJ and Tang are on the mic. Welcome everyone to the casting desk, and what a matchup we have. Flowstate versus DLAB. I think it's fair to say as well, probably 2 of our most evenly matched teams, Tang, going into this one. There's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. DLAB and Flowstate, they did meet each other before in the Swiss stage, and now we get another treat of a game. It was close then. It is hopefully going to be close here, especially if we listen in to what the analyst said. But yeah, definitely the game to watch for this quarters, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And also watching these teams as well in our preparations for this quarterfinals, as we are going to jump down onto the battleground. You can see the beautiful overlay, the graphics. You can see the rosters as well as they stack up. I don't know, Tang, there's something special about both of these rosters. I mean, DLAB in their recent results and their group stage performance looked like a different team with that addition of North in the jungle, but Flowstate probably exceeded a few expectations as well, coming out swinging in that Swiss stage. So we're expecting this one, as I say, to be pretty close and pretty brawly as well.
Yeah, I think if you're not familiar with Flowstate and you think it's just gonna be an easy win for DLAB, I think you are gonna be mistaken. Flowstate has been proving themselves over and over again. We saw Wangle mention before as well that they have been taking scrim sets of teams that you really wouldn't expect, and they're definitely not sort of like the statisticians that stand in the backgrounds, but they are also the protagonists. They used to be Deja Vu before, now they swapped out the jungler, and they're back with a vengeance for this PCC, and I'm really looking forward to what they can cook up in this game.
Because based on that previous knowledge as well, with DLAB and Flowstate, thinking back to that group stage as well, and also the scrims that we were watching in preparation for this matchup as well, there seem to be two very common threads. Flowstate coming out of the gates very early, having a much stronger early game, but it's just that one objective fight, either that second Fangtooth or the first All Prime, that just doesn't go their way, and DLAB just take it to the house. So do we think that could happen again?
I think it's almost a trend at this point, right? You just mentioned it. It kind of happened every single time we saw those two teams sort of play against each other. It was always just Flowstate getting those early objectives, getting those early kills, playing really well around those early item timings. But then as time goes on, DLAB sort of team fighting just pulls them back from a deficit. Now on the dual lane, Lakenator gets hit on.
Oh, he's going so low as well. I don't think Jay was able to proc that ability. He's only level 1 as well. But already this dual lane starting to feel the pressure as well. And I think that's a good segue to maybe look into the composition as well. We saw Professors banning away this phase in their game. Of course, that's a bit of a historical ban for the Professors as well. But DLAB taking the Drongo and the phase lane tank. How do you think it matches up?
Yeah, I mean, we can see right here that Gusti is just doing a bit too much. Mid lane gank by North is going to get the stun onto Bri, forces the blink away. So not even giving us a chance to talk about the dual lane, but now I can maybe just go back to that point. It is sort of Gusti smurfing on the Bellica usually, Toasty just looking to deny the playmaking potential from the Bellica, and then hopefully towards the late game just come out ahead in terms of scaling.
Well, it's just got to be getting to that point as well. As I say, these games also seem to be very drawn out, 25 plus minutes. We're not expecting them to be as quick as our first quarter final. Just having a look here at the junglers as well. Lorba might be in a bit of trouble here coming in from the gank from Simba on the steal as well. Got a double buffs. That bull rush is going to land, immediately going to force that first blink. So a little bit of pressure being attached to that right-hand side, at least, as that first blink gets blown.
That's a really good gank by the steal. Ganking at the timer where the Cyan is up. That's something we've seen a lot in those sort of comp games. It's the jungler just making the rotation over to get that Cyan. Now Lakenator gets really low, has to blink away. Jay follows and gets the first blood. Toasty in a bad spot now as well. Is able to escape, but first blood to Jay.
The pressure just unrelenting in that dual lane, and first blood on the board for Flowstate as well, going into Jay's pocket. A start that we were expecting here, but wanting to see how Flowstate want to transition that as well, because that was in isolation. That was an isolated 2 versus 2 kill as well. No jungle or mid lane interaction just yet. So maybe that segues over to North as well. So what can he do to maybe? Do you think he's going to try and answer back that deficit, or is he going to look elsewhere, Ty?
I think he kind of has to look elsewhere. Like with that phase Drongo lane, if it goes behind, it's a bit rough, especially against the Bellica. Like you can still have that long range setup with that phase beam, but I would actually expect him to play around Epi more. Like we highlighted it before a tiny bit on the desk. It's just Epi really good with most mid laners, especially on that howitzer as well, and is sort of the playmaker for DLAB. And I'm expecting North to realize that, play around the mid lane, get him ahead, and then once Epi gets a lead in the mid lane, he can transition that towards the dual lane or towards the off lane.
It's taken a little bit of a leaf out of the Professor's playbook as well, thinking back to that first quarterfinal matchup of the day. We were mentioning backstage, kind of this Gideon into the howitzer matchup is a little bit more Gideon-sided, so maybe going for those early rotations, trying to impact the side lanes as well. But so far, so good, at least for the Flowstate team as well. Gusti being a bit aggressive, not going to find that seismic assault just yet. Simba showing face on this left-hand side. Neutral starting to spawn. Fangtooth just popping up 30 seconds ago. Mini Prime about a minute and a half away from spawning as well. We're just seeing where the junglers are going to be right now, as Simba is going to be spotted out North, right place, right time in his blue side to maybe dissuade a gank from Simba on that left-hand side.
And it's smart positioning by the dual lane of DLAB, realizing that they are weaker, just playing a bit more back with Toasty on that phase. It should be really hard to get a good gank in. On that off lane though, we see Health Force dropping its peak, getting a trade into Lorba. Lorba going really low, but nobody should die off this gank.
Peak potentially. I mean, if he had that Fury of the Heavens, you might be looking at a solo Bolo in this right-hand side, but not for the first time this game as well, that Lorber and Peak have been just trading out consistently in that solo lane, both going very low, both having to reset as well. I'm just going to maybe look ahead as I'm trying to think with that first mini prime fight as well, with the jungle matchups as well. How do you rate that matchup, in the 2v2 kind of the mid and jungle and solo lane matchup against these two?
Well, I think it's whoever gets level 6 first, and I think North just stole away that red buff, got a cheeky invade in, so if he actually turns to level 6, it could be a good time. Now he's looking towards the dual lane.
AJ and Gussy, gotta be careful. The energy lance will be thrown out by Toast. Not gonna find the root just yet. North looks to the barricade stun, but it's a very split target, and you can see that DLAB starting to return a lot of damage. Lakenator will get pulled away. Flowstate want more. There's a Jay gonna shadow glide forward. Gussy leading the charge, seismic assault avoid. Bomb gonna land, gonna make its mark, and that's a kill. Gussy getting the killing blow. The energy lance comes out, but can't tag onto Jay, and Flowstate find a second kill of the game.
And that's exactly why you don't want to play around the lane that is losing, because then even if you are the jungler, then you're just going to get boxed out. You are still going to lose the trade, as we saw right here. It's just Jay with the Shadow Glide getting a lot of damage on top of Lakenator securing that kill and making the lane even harder to play. Also pushes the Sarahs a bit behind in terms of tempo now North on that offlane.
Lorber already forced down low, Subjugate connecting on towards Peak. Will burn that blink very early, but he has at least got the explosive plant to get some distance. He will keep himself alive this time, but North trying to make moves on the side lanes. Peak still sticking around, maybe trying to challenge, but actually North gives him a level 6 and throws down the column. See him now, Peak has to be careful, got no blink. He's going to look to the heavens, look for some divine intervention. He's not going to find it. North gets to kill, and now Appy Picker is in trouble in the mid lane. Simba with the gank, as remember, assault, bull rush, damage, able to proc down, but Appy blinks away from the shield slam, and now it's Simba's got to be careful because Lorber is here. The Savarog wanting to make amends, wanting to get revenge, and Simba's in a world of trouble. He's going to use maybe that blast flower, but he's not going to find the angle. Still has to get away. Might have to take the long way round, but Lorber's just going to run him down. Subjugate, Siphon, going to connect. The Simba doing what he can to delay time, but I think Simba's days on this map are numbered.
Yeah, it does look like he doesn't want to give the kill over to Sarahs. That's why he just runs around the ring right there. I don't know how the saying goes exactly. But
ring around the rosies, I think is the...
Yeah, but what I do know is that the kill does go over to DLAB, that has sort of gotten the advantage back after having a bit of a rough early game again. 9 minutes in, no objectives have fallen yet. We've seen kind of a trend. We've seen Jay being the strong side for Flowstate, and for DLAB, it's the Sarahs making those plays.
Of course, yeah, North finding that kill on towards Peak again. Might have to say a few question marks about Peak looking to rearrange, but North wants to collect, wants to get another stack. Peak, though, even without his blink, still has to respect it. Doesn't want to overstay his welcome, but Lorber is at half HP as well. Also has to be careful. The Tether going to connect as well. He's not quite going to go for the full commit. Knows North is around. Lorber throws a colossal blow, expecting the dive, but he's just going to have to go back to base.
Yeah, that was a colossal something, but yeah, it doesn't connect with the Quang. That's a big cooldown blown by the Sarahs, by the Savarog on that offlane side. I'm a bit surprised, right, with all the time invested by Sarahs before, chasing after the Quang on that offlane, securing that Cyan buff, etc. Like, he had a chance to go for that Fangtooth to trade out something for that, but instead he did go for the Howie gank that didn't go as planned. Now mini prime being started up by Flowstate.
And it's just those moments as well, those coin flip moments, the rolls of the dice not going in Flowstate's favor. As they are going to start up this mini prime. It has evened up at least the kills. The mini prime going away, going to be given over to Peak as well, just to make Lorber's life in this solo lane a lot more miserable. We know what Lorber can bring on a Savarog, one of his signature picks, but it feels like it's a very, very big hill to climb to get him to that point. Looks like DLAB want to respond. They're going to start up onto this first Fangtooth.
And with resets coming in from Flowstate, this one should just be secured by DLAB. Shouldn't be in time for the steal to actually get there. So It's something we see a lot of, right? Trading those first objectives, the mini prime for that Fangtooth. Who does it benefit? It's always the question, right? Like if you can use that mini prime to open up the map to get a few tier 1s, then it's definitely the mini prime giving you so much gold that you can easier contest the second one. But if you are not able to do anything with the mini prime, then I would just rather take that Fangtooth for myself.
For sure, and we didn't even see Peak make that rotation from the solo side with the mini prime buff over to help out with that Fangtooth play as well. So that is something that we see from other teams as well, a bit of a standard playbook. Simba just moving over to this left-hand side of the map, but Lakenator and Toasty having to play so safe. They are in a deficit in this duo lane as well, and they probably know North is not going to help them out much more, so they have to just get through this laning phase at least. But just looking at the towers, we're still very much in that laning phase at the moment. No towers have fallen across the map.
No towers have fallen. It is Peak trying to change that on that offlane with that mini prime, but no chance so far. Jay gets caught by North. Good knockup.
Yeah, the Seismic Assault just buys so much time. Gussy using a Blast Flower, but he's just going to hit straight into a pillar. Colosseum comes down. Gussy burns the blink, but Jay still hitting that damage. This Kira just feels so accelerating this play. His mid lane and a nice DPS check going between Happy Picker and Bri. And Bri looks like he's going to win this. He's going to miss an ability, but a meteor from above collects that kill, and Bri is able to get a solo bolo.
A good solo bolo there by him. Secures the kill with sort of the black hole locking the howitzer in space, couldn't use the ultimate to escape, so definitely a good pickup, sort of camping the rotation over. Now on that dual lane side, we see a bit of a push into the tier 1 tower. They really want to get something, right? Peak on that off lane trying to get the tier 1, but Lorba is there, colossal blow, secures Peak on the tower, forces the blink.
He's got to be careful as well, because look at the minimap. North and Simba are on the way. This is a 2v2, but it is going to be in favor of DLAB with the health bars. Peak thinking about the re-engage attempt, not going to find his mark. It's just both junglers showing face and just dissipates all that pressure in the right-hand side. But look at the minimap. The pressure does not relent. Left-hand side duo lane tower is going to fall in isolation, picked up by the Flowstate duo lane.
Yeah, Jay and Gursy just not relenting with the pressure, getting the tier 1, the first tower of the game for themselves. That's definitely some good pocket change in their pockets, right? Jay getting stronger and stronger. 1-0, 120 CS, finishing up the Vanquisher already, going in for the second item. Could be a Sky Splitter, not 100% sure, but what I do know is that he is going to be one scary Kira this game.
And it seems as well that both of these teams having that scary late game character as well. The Kira that can hyper carry. And if Lorba on the Sevarog is able to reach that point when Sevarog is able to do Sevarog things with the pauldrons, with the spikes, all that health, being able to tank a lot of damage coming through. But again, with how this game is going, that matchup feels a lot further away it is for Lorba. He's just got to get through the next few minutes of the game. I mean, for here and now, though, Flowstate, as we were expecting, coming out the brighter, we're now a bit stronger as well, starting to group up with that first tower dropping on left. Wussy moving in towards the mid lane. Happy Picker's landmine is at least going to dissuade the engage from the sides of the assault, and Energy Lance coming down as well. So Toasty responds with the rotation. A bit of a grouping up here, a bit of an NA ramp starting to form as well. North goes and presses the button. No Colosseum on towards Wussy. The sides of the assault buys a bit of distance, but they make it rain over the top. And now Bri looks for the black hole, looking for the re-engage. They're able to take down North. Happy Picker is saved by Toasty, but it costs the jungler's life.
The idea is good. They know there's no blink up, no Peak against Lorba. Lorba gets the better of him. Colossal blows him away, but doesn't have enough damage. Peak goes back in. He's gonna trade into him. Peak 1 HP. So is Lorba. Both of them at the knife's edge. No blink for Peak. Lorba is gonna get engaged on. Misses the Q, but blinks forward with that. Q is gonna secure it.
Oh my word, that kill felt personal in the right-hand lane, but oh my word, so close to death. I think the minions might get the MVP award as well for so much damage on towards Peak. Really playing with fire as well, and Lorba, that kill felt good.
That kill definitely felt good. Allows the Sevarog to finish the second item. Also gives him the fast track over towards that Fangtooth. That's going to be the next objective. We see a bunch of members getting deep vision. We see Appy looking towards Simba. It's going to get caught here. Takes a bit of damage for his troubles.
Landmine does buy the distance, able to get some space between them. But looking at the map, no, Peak's not on the way though, as Lorber goes in, subjugate on towards two members, and Gwussy just gets burned by the rad rounds. Lakeinator gets a kill under his belt, but now Peak is here. Maybe Flowstate wants to re-engage, this will be a numbers advantage. The Fangtooth was what they were duking over for, and that's what DLAB are going to pull towards. But Simba is still here. He still has his shield slam, he still has his ultimate as the Fangtooth going to be started. Peak leading the charge on the front line. If they can get to North, if they get any CC, Peak maybe looking towards Happy Picker as Bright goes to the black hole play. North has to be so careful to make it rain over the top. A lot of ultimates being committed, but no one dropping just yet. But DLAB pounces and able to at least get one on the back line as Simba goes for the re-engage. Flowstate actually steal away that objective and even out the Fangtooth as well. Lorber and Lakeinator in the prime pit trying to take out Peak as well, who's just buying so much time. Simba arrives with the shield slam as well, able to get a kill on towards Lakeinator. Such a crazy fight. Health bars are low, but Gwussy's here off of the reset, wanting to make amends. Seismic Assault gonna knock up one. Toasty in danger. Toasty gonna be shot out of the sky. DLAB gonna lose two, and Flowstate also picking up that first Fangtooth.
What a crazy fight that was. Such an extended engage that Baleka off the death was already there for the reset. And you highlighted it there. It's the steal securing that Fangtooth. It was a bit of a split call by DLAB. Half of the members peel off the Fangtooth in order to turn. The other half is still on it. So it's actually just a steal for the steal that was still in the pit, right? And now Lorber definitely not happy with that play. Press the disconnect button. That definitely stings for them. We're having a bit of a tap screen. 516 to 530 CS, a bit of a lead opening up, but definitely not as bad as the objective lead is at this point. Securing that mini prime in a second as well, together with that Fangtooth, definitely stings for DLAB.
Yeah, of course, it is very important to mention as well. As you say, Lorber has disconnected. We are past that point of no return for the reset, so DLAB will have to play the next few moments until Lorber is able to come back in a 4 versus 5. Flowstate more than happy to accept that as well, as we mentioned before in the build-up to this game as well, that this was normally the point DLAB come back. It was fights like that that's in the preparation. In the previous games have gone DLAB's way, but now Flowstate, granted, of course, they have been helped by that disconnect by Lorber, who is back on the map as well. DLAB still have a bit of an uphill battle to get to because Flowstate's side lanes are looking pretty terrifying right now.
They definitely are, right? But you highlighted it before, like the comeback potential of DLAB is still very real. With the Zevrog in that off lane, I'm definitely expecting him to get to sort of win out against the Quang sooner rather than later. Lorber loves playing Zevrog. It's one of his most played heroes, and he is really good on it, right? We've seen a few solo bolos against the Quang. We see the side of Flowstate looking at him again, though.
Yeah, definitely are echoing your words. Never, ever count Dirty Lake and the boys out. And now they, again, still feel like they're in this game with that combat potential. Lorber in a 1 versus 2 throws out the Colossal Blow. Gets Simba out of his face at least, but Peak is still on the hunt. Once more, Bright torn spaces forwards, but the Blast Cone just gets enough distance. Peak actually chases it through, but he's not able to find the burst. Lorber does get away with his life, and that's a big commitment from Flowstate on that right-hand side.
Yeah, that was ugly. Blinking up by the Quang against the Zevrog that still had like a quarter HP remaining. Yeah, I don't think we do that. Like, that was a bit of an overstep by Peak. Has to pay with it with his blink. Nothing else, at least, so that's a good thing. But it gave a bit of time to Happy Picker that was able to shove out that wave, with Bry having to rotate over. It's always a sort of give and take. If you use your time to impact the off lane, the other lanes are going to suffer at least a tiny bit. Now in that mid lane though, Happy Picker has to be careful. Quang is close by.
Yeah, I feel like the key here for Dirty Lake and the boys is making sure they monitor where Peak is now. Lorber, of course, with that disconnect, is probably going to enjoy the solo XP and the solo farm on that right-hand side. And as long as Peak is kept in check, I mean, they know exactly where that Quang is, Dirty Lake and the boys can kind of weather the storm as well. I mean, we've mentioned about kind of looking towards late game, looking towards scaling as well. We know about the Zevrog, we know about the Kira, but what about the rest of the composition, Tang? How does the late game look for both of these teams as we pass that 20-minute mark?
And I think one thing before we get off the Zevrog, because we have talked about it quite a bit, he actually does have an XP lead, right? Even with the disconnect. So I definitely think that Lorber is all online already. I don't think they need to be too worried about the Quang. As for the rest of the members, it's always like Saras makes the the ADC's role really hard to play with Kira, not really having anything to disengage from as Saras that just cages her. It's gonna always be the blink that saves her. Maybe the Bellica being close by is gonna help as well, but usually North loves to play those corners, loves to play out of vision and then just pull the trigger. And then with the Howitzer providing the damage, with the Make It Rain, with that R2000 rocket, that could be a game changer, right? Kira has a lot of Flowstate's gold, and if they manage to shut Jay down, that's a lot of damage gone for that team.
Jay with a bit of a target on their head as well, but that just such is the territory. And you are the ADC as well, and as you highlighted as well, that dive potential, that burst is still there for Dirty Lake and the boys. Looks like Fangtooth number 3 is going to be the next matchup, our next location for a potential fight. You can see the Flowstate are already here. Dirty Lake and the boys grouping up in towards the mid lane as well. Utilizing that push. Neither mid lane tower has fallen as well, so the Fangtooth can be a bit more tricky for both of these teams to navigate. Lorba actually looking for a play. He's going to whiff that Colossal Blow on the right-hand side. That's going to be a big cooldown to burn as well. Subjugate landing on towards Peak, but still has a lot of his HP bar remaining. DLAB reinforcements do arrive, not looking for the pick, but North goes and presses the engage button. Peak looking to be the target. The energy lance not going to lock him down. It takes some time, but they do eventually grab Peak. Now they want more as He's going to go in towards the black hole as well, but all members are out, and to Make It Rain takes straight to the face. Simba going for the re-engage. They want the wombo combo, but Desdek and the boys playing this so patient, drawing this one out. Lorba does drop though over in the mid lane as well. Simba goes for the retreat, having to be careful. Can't afford to lose your jungler just yet. It's a drawn out fight. It's only a 1-for-1.
It's only a 1-for-1, but with HP leads over to the side of DLAB, really well played. A bit of an overcommitment onto the Quang means that they are actually gonna go up ahead in this fight, managing to secure that Fangtooth. Peak a bit out of position, even with the kill being traded out by Lorba. Falling at the back end of the fight, it still means that the second Fangtooth for DLAB is going to be secured, giving them a bit of bonus movement speed. And here we see again, TJ, like the team fighting of DLAB saves them in the mid to late game.
Of course, and we just had a little look at the score, the slash lines as well for Lakenator on this Drongo. Sitting on the 1 and 3 mark, had such a rough time in that duo lane alongside Toasty, but this is where Dirty Lake and the boys, this is where their comeback factor comes in. Their team fighting in the clutch moments. You can always count on a member of the DLAB squad to come in clutch and get that high reel montage moment as well. As the only neutral objective is going to be the Ore Prime on the right-hand side. Yeah, it's a bit of movement from the DLAB squad over towards it as well, but I don't think they're confident enough to try and pull your Prime just yet, at least. So it might have a little bit of a lull state, teams trying to find an advantage, maybe trying to find a pick here. But that tier 1 tower on the right-hand side might be the first target for Dirty Lake and the boys.
Yeah, it might be. Sarah's being close by. I think another thing to highlight is that both mid laners actually push out the left-hand side. They know that the dual lane is a bit too exposed if they go towards the left-hand side, because if the enemy team starts up that Prime, it could end up being bad for them. So we have Lakenator and Toasty in the mid lane. Now Epipicker will actually join them. They should be able to push down the tier 1 in the mid lane. Good link-up plays, making sure that they get the standing gold on the map.
Just a bit of tidying up as well. These towers were pushed low by a bit of splinter damage. Well, we're going to find a subjugate, going to find a colossal blow on towards Peak, having to burn the blink. Fang's going to go down. North goes for the engage with the core team, but Simba's there. Big double shield slam comes down. But the fight, the burst is all Dirty Lake and the boys as Lorba gets his soul stack on towards Peak. But Simba bull rushes forward. He wants more. Reinforcements have arrived, though. Dirty Lake and the boys are here, and Flowstate look to pull back.
They just don't take any damage. Lorba and North getting caught by the shield slam. They just shrug it off. It doesn't deal any damage to them. Lorba coming out almost with more HP after that fight as before. And yeah, definitely the strong team fighting, the strong sort of hero picks scaling is what I want to highlight on Lorba, on that Saras as well, just paying off dividends, just sort of getting the better of Quang for the last few minutes already. And now bit of a dance around that Prime pit. We see deep wards by both teams, but it's still Flowstate having a bit deeper ones, but Howitzer is on the other side of the map. That is a wave that Peak has to catch.
is going to be responded as well. Let's say with Peak immediately going over towards the left-hand side. We've spoken a lot about the DLAB composition and kind of their win conditions into the later stages of this game, but the Flowstate comp, the desk highlighted as well, that everyone kind of pushes the funny button, and they really need to hope that DLAB die at the end of it as well. And for Flowstate, though, they haven't seemed to have found that combination yet, Tang.
Yeah, and even if they did, it was only on those tanky members. Like, I don't want to see a shield slam going onto Savarog or a Saris. They can just shrug it off, as we just saw just there before. But we want to see it on that phase Drongo duo, maybe on that Howitzer as well. Those are the targets you really want to affect. That is why you pick the Steel. It's just like those easy ganks. Now Simba is going to look for Lorba again.
Go and try and find that CC. Blast Flower gets a little bit of distance, but Lorba taking so much damage because Jay just hits like a truck, and Lorba finally bites the dust. But now North wants Jay. The Shield Slam comes down to lock it up, but North wants this Kira, and he's going to find it in the Colosseum. Black Hole comes out. North stuck in his own Colosseum, trying to get away, trying to juke the AoE, but the Meteors just have a bigger hitbox, and now Reinforcements Gussie is here to avenge his fallen member on the right-hand side. Looks like it's going to be Flowstate to clean up house over in the solo lane. 3 members drop for DLAB for 2 of Flowstate's.
Yeah, and here we see the strength of Flowstate's team comp, right? Like, even though the Steel couldn't save the Kira till the very end, he could lock down the Savarog for long enough for Jay to dish out that damage. Jay, we saw in that early game, got so accelerated, and we can see the damage he puts out now. Definitely can just shred the Savarog that had to spec into a lot of magical defense as well to win the side lane against the Quang, but definitely suffers against the Kira now.
And of course, as well, with Flowstate more than willing to rotate their duo lane out into the solo lane, into the mid lane, wherever Jay and Gussie need to be. That feels like the key for this Flowstate composition as well. And there's plenty more opportunities to find as well, because now we're going to get the first primal Fangtooth of the game spawning in just a matter of seconds on that left-hand side. Flowstate are the team in a much better position right now, but Lorba moving over towards the right-hand side, but Toasty's got to be careful. He's able to be tagged by the Tether. Pete just running him down, able to buy some distance. The Blast Flower actually becomes a little midi landmine as well. I've been able to buy some time. Happy Picker forced out the Make It Rain. Pete going very low. Lakenator is here. What can they do? Simba in towards the backline. Lorba finds 2 with a colossal blow, and DLAB just need to find the damage. They've already grabbed Peak, and now Simba has to be careful. Shield Slam to re-engage, but Lakenator blinks, and Simba blinks back to keep himself alive. Bright hit by a landmine and having to find the toward space through. Lorba follows, wanting more. Happy Picker wants more. Lake wants more as well. But Flow, so I'm going to give him North with the Colosseum play on towards the backline, but the Black Hole comes down. Epoch strike pose from Happy Picker. Another landmine splits apart this team like pins on a bowling alley, but it's all going the way of Flowstate right now. They've got Happy Picker. They're going to get Lakenator. They're going to look to clean up their house. Toasty is an elusive one, but Jay procs to Dusk, and Toasty is going down once again. Free fall for the side of Dirt's Lake and the boys.
They completely lose the team fight at the beginning of it. Flowstate fighting without the Kira, but the second they overchase, the second DLAB overchases, it is Kira dealing out the damage. Jay making sure that his team is not gonna fall. Now they will get a good reset. They're up in kills and they instantly go for those objectives. There were still a few death timers on the side of DLAB. It's gonna be really hard for them to get there in time. Saris though is up, so is Savarog. They might look for a steal.
All eyes going to be on North as well. Simba is here, but Simba's not zoning. He has to be here for the secure. North, Lorba arriving towards the pit. That All Prime is still taking damage. Flowstate looking to disengage. Seismic Assault on connecting on towards North, and they are going to at least secure the All Prime for themselves as well. A good subjugate buys time for Lorba to try and get away, but it's the full retreat coming out. The Tether's landing, but not going to find their mark. Flowstate with the Fireman Collapse picking up the All Prime.
A lot of damage taken there by the Saris, but now it's going to be engaged onto the mid lane. Simba!
Oh, it's Flowstate just gonna get caught out by a subjugate, by a landmine as well. And just as it was going their way, Dirt's Lake and the boys never count them out. Pull that All Prime buff off for 3 members, and Peak and Gideon have to get away. But DLAB, what an answer back.
What an answer back. The prime has been taken, but Lorber just doesn't care. He just goes in, gets a good colossal blow onto the entire backline, and it is just the immediate swing starting up that Primal Fang now as well. Peek in the vicinity trying to do something.
Yeah, but he's not got Simba with him. So with that steal as well, North is not here. There was actually a potential of Peak if he was able to get closer towards the pit, but the Primal Fangtooth, the Primordial Blaze, going to be picked up by Dirty Lake and the boys. Onto 4 members as well, going to reset. But this Tang is what we said, what we were expecting. Flowstate coming out of the gate stronger, but DLAB finding their fight to pull them back into this game. Was that pick in mid lane? Was that collapse the fight they were looking for?
It definitely was. Getting the Primal Fang and at the same time getting their 3rd Fangtooth off the game, granting them not only the temporary buff that is going to make those teamfights even easier for the next short while, but also giving them just permanently more armor, more damage. Both in AP and in AD is definitely going to prove to be really good for DLAB, especially with some unkillable demons in their roster, and with Lorber on the Sevarog just barely taking any damage. Now looking towards the invade again. Flowstate knows that they are weak at the moment, have to give up a few camps. That won't sting too much. With them having the big prime, it's at least not going to be anything more. It's really hard to sort of push into those tier 2s, into those inhibs if you play against buffed up minion wave, even if it's only on 2 members.
Sure here, and you can see the response as we're expecting. Flowstate just respecting it. They can't afford members to be caught out. This Primordial Blaze makes an already difficult team fight that much harder for Flowstate to play as well. Peak split pushing on the left-hand side. Lorber going to respond diagonally on the right as well. Peak able to at least get the mini wave underneath the tier 2 tower. Toasty goes fishing as the light screen comes down, able to block that from coming through. It looks like the tier 2 tower on the left-hand side is going to fall to the minions, but Peak wasn't there to cash in on the gold. He has to be here to try and protect the mid lane with the team. A few resets. It looks like DLAB will just push down another pin with this tier 2 tower. You've also got Lorber on the right-hand side. The siege goes on.
They should be able to get those towers unless Flowstate actually wants to fight. North goes in.
Oh, North goes in with the Colosseum, but he's so far forward. There's going to be a bit of a delay for the rest of the team to get here. But Simba is just deleted as a Vanishing Act is pulled. And now they need to retreat because Flowstate wants some revenge. But Lorber is here. Peak goes in, but Peak is also going back towards his base. Flowstate losing 3 members, and the siege still does not relent. All 5 members of DLAB still stand.
So now it's Primal Fang being not on the heroes anymore, but Lorber just goes in onto the Gideon that does manage to buy some space, but Inhib is the real target. Are gonna get the mid Inhib. Right one is gonna be rough, so is the left one with the tier 2 still standing, but still really well played by the side of DLAB. Flowstate's getting a bit too confident, walking up a bit too much, and North finds the target. We're looking at him right here, just always pressing the triggers, knowing his limits just so well, especially on the Tsaurus with that Colosseum, locking a bunch of Flowstate's members in right there at the inhib just before that Primal Fang was about to expire, and just winning the team fight that way.
North's Colosseums in these last couple of team fights have been game-changing as well. And as you highlighted, Tang, it makes the fight so much more difficult for Flowstate to play here. It just feels like Jay hasn't been allowed to at least get that damage down. And you highlighted as well, those raid bosses, the unkillable Demon Kings are here with Lorber and also with North leading this charge. It's so difficult for Flowstate to try and find a way in. They still have tools available to them. We've seen throughout the past 34 minutes of this game what Flowstate can do, but it feels like they're just hitting a wall at the moment with this DLAB team.
Yeah, definitely. And usually it is the other team that is supposed to hit the wall if you play against the Steel. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, Flowstate's definitely not coming out ahead in those fights. But now Primal Fang has expired. Remember, the permanent buffs are still there, but at least the true damage is not. Big Prime is gonna spawn next. We see a lot of vision being invested over towards that side, especially by the side of Flowstate, making sure that DLAB cannot pull something funny.
Sweepers coming out from North as well. Let's say just get the vision back in towards their favor as well. See the response coming in, and of course with that inhibitor dropping in the mid lane, constantly needing to have someone there to push the minion waves back out. Also gives a avenue for Dirty Lake and the boys to pull up, especially if they win this next fight as well. But with 35 minutes into the game, you saw the death timers from that last collapse. There we are at 1 minute plus on all members. Whoever gets caught out here could very much decide the game. Probably why both of these teams are trying to play it safe. This dance goes on, but no one wants to overstep just yet.
Nobody wants to overstep. Kwang actually clears the wave without showing. That's actually pretty big, but because now DLAB is not confident enough to start up those fights, Kwang also didn't show on those wards. Did manage to get a ward onto the Primal Fang to make sure that DLAB can't sneak that while the rest of the members of Flowstate are busy with that Prime. Now Savrok still there. North gets the D ward onto the Fang pits. They might be looking for something.
Yeah, and Flowstate able to just pull more members in, and North having to be so careful. He's caught out here, but now the rest of the team are able to respond. But they can get North, but they can get the jungler down. This will be a good secure as a CC, and the chain is so good, and that is North dropping before the fight begins. And Flowstate want the exit frags. They want even more. Pete can't find the tether. A good subjugate from Lorber, able to buy space, able to buy time as Bright uses that with a torn space. The black hole on towards Happy Picker, and that's the mid lane down. Flowstate blinking forward, Sideswap not going to find the mark, but now Lake holding down the left click button, trying to get that damage down. They've lost 2 members. North, Appy down, and Flowstate's going to pull towards the left-hand side. Maybe it's a calculated bait. Lorber popping that Razorback as well to face check here. Peak is a little bit too low to do that damage as well, but Flowstate with the advantage, with their health, going to start up the Primal Fangtooth for themselves.
Primal Fangtooth is being started up. Peak has to recoil. Savrok still in the vicinity. No smite for the side of DLAB. They still want to try something.
Now maybe this will take a bit of a miracle steal as well. Simba, your timing has to be correct here, at least, as the Primal Fangtooth will go their way. And with a stacking objective like Primal Fangtooth, it's very important to mention at 35 minutes, the Primordial Blaze, that damage over time is the strongest that it will be at this time. 37 minutes, we're approaching 38, and it looks like Flowstate want to complete the double neutral objectives and go for a double bubble buff.
Yeah, and with that Primal Fang having been secured just before, it's going to be such a fast take for them. There's no way that Saris is going to make it in time, especially with the mid laner still being on that gray screen, just respawning now. That's going to be the Howie back. So all members for the side of DLAB are alive to fight for a different day, but it is going to be really hard. You highlighted it. Primal Fang has stacked up to the maximum. Prime is always going to be strong. It's going to be cannon waves all the way at this point in the game, and they're all going to be buffed up with that Prime buff, giving them more durability. And it's going to be so hard for the side of DLAB to fight into this.
For sure here as well. And looking at Flowstate as well, looking at Kira in particular. Played by Jay as well, sitting at full build, actually going for the Mesmer as his last item to give himself a spell shield to maybe survive and just a little bit longer in these team fights. Lakenator does not need anything more trivial than a spell shield. He's gone for that Imperator last item because he's got Toasty's Tether to pull him to safety as well. And Dirty Lake and the boys, the talisman player Lakenator needs to be the member that they rally behind, as Flowstate going to start the siege. And of course, much like before, Dirty Lake and the boys have to respect it, as they had the respect shown to them in their last siege. The Energy Giants is going to go for the pick as North. Once Jay's going to try and get away, Shield Slam comes down, make it rain from Happy Picker as well. They're going to try and burst down Jay, but they're going to get Simba at least 1 member down, make that 2. Gwassi is out of the fight. Peak wants to re-engage a Bryce Black Hole as well, but Toasty is there with the bodyguard to save Lakenator and even able to get him over the wall, but Lakenator still takes so much damage as Tether lands on towards Toasty. The tick, the boom, the damage over time from the Primordial Blaze takes the life of Toasty as his inhibitors start to fall.
Inhibitors start to fall, but really well played by DLAB, recognizing that it is 3 members in mid while the side lanes are being pushed, so they actually fight, they actually win it as well. 2 for 1, they lose all 3 inhibs for it. So it's definitely not the best result for them, but considering playing against double bubble buff 40 minutes in the game, kind of saves them the game, makes them able to live another day. I feel like I've said that before though, but definitely gonna be them surviving with Flowstate having to run away. A bit of a sort of greedy positioning by them. I was about to highlight it there as well, TJ. It is like they are playing 3 lanes, but at the same time, they're not waiting for the side lanes to actually push up. So North does what North does. He just blinks in, gets a Colosseum, forces Chase Blink away, which is going to make his next team fight harder. But it's also it was also the steal dying at the back end of it. It was the Bellica falling as well. Even with those inhibs falling, at least gives DLAB a chance back into this game.
So all members are going to respawn on the map. 1 more second for Toasty to rejoin the team. And that's going to be all 5 members of DLAB and Flowstate as well. The base, though, is in tatters, as we mentioned as well, for Flowstate. That is still going in their favor. The buffs probably not going to last much longer if they have not already expired as well. They still need to group up. And now we are at this point with 41 minutes into the game. Full items being completed. Full levels starting to be hit. I can see that Peak and Bry on the side of Flowstate are level 18. But also Lorber, North, and Abby Pick are level 18. Peak, though, is in a world of pain as all 5 members are here to collapse. And it's just going to be knocked about to bounce back to his spawn. Lakenator gets the killing blow. But Flowstate can't afford to lose members like that.
And I think that is a really bad death, because that will overlap with those objective timers as well. Just a big misstep by Kwang. Didn't see anyone on the map. He sees his team in the blue side jungle, thinks he has enough space to actually push out that wave, but doesn't. Drops to a 5-man rotation, and now it's gonna be rough. Fangtooth is gonna be the first objective spawning. That is also where we see most of those wards being invested, but 3 inhibs down means that they need to respond to those waves. Minions are not a choke, they can threaten the core as well. So Severok on that right hand side is gonna push that out. It's gonna be a 4 versus 5 for quite a bit longer. 35 seconds the death timer for Kwang, but DLAB has to play this smart, has to play that fast as well. And we see them making the rotation into the river.
They just need to get that vision down, need to play this safe. Just as we saw about death timers at this point in the game, that was 70 seconds before Pete can even get on here. It's not even going to be around for this next fight as well. He's still sitting on that grey screen in the spectate mode. But this is a fight, 5 versus 4. Simba is still here, so is Brian. Lorber Subjugate going to land on towards Simba. Just simply Colossal blows him out of the fight. And that means the Primal Fangtooth going to be very easily secured for the side of DLAB. Flowstate, though, don't stick around. They retreat immediately, but DLAB wants a double bubble buff for themselves, maybe, because that All Prime is going to be the next target when it spawns.
Yeah, it definitely can be. Now at least 5 members for Flowstate, but fighting into that Primordial Blaze is usually not a good way to play the game. True damage really ramping up the later the game goes, and at this point everybody has complete items, and since that buff is percentage based, it's gonna be such a bad time if you are ever fighting against it. It's the Drongo just dealing infinite damage with it. It's even the Phase applying it with the beam. Just can't really tank through that, even if you are the Steel, even if you are the Kwang. But they need to be careful, and careful they definitely are, because TJ, look at all of those wards.
Lit up like a Christmas tree on that right-hand side, 4 wards down. Lorber going to add onto himself as well, but it's just going to break that line of the nice dusk wards being placed over that All Prime entrance as well. But of course, as we said before, 3 inhibitors are still down and not going to be fake inhibitors just yet. So super minions are still going to be pouring in. That's why DLAB having to respond. They can't afford for one of these minion waves to sneak through. But maybe if they can burn down the objective with that Primordial Blaze as well. It's North, Lake, Toasty. Now Lorber joining him as well. Abby Picker's in the red jungle. He will join in just a moment. But all 5 members of Flowstate are here. Tether lands on towards Lorber, but decides not to pull. Decides not to pull the trigger just yet. Abby Picker is here. That All Prime went down so quickly. Looking for the re-engage. This could be the game-deciding fiber with the buff in favor. It looks like it's going to go the way of DLAB, but no! They've actually lost Abby Picker. Jay is still in this fight. Now Lorber stuck in between 4 members. Flowstate just simply turn, and they're going to simply burn their way through the Lorber Severok. They've got the buffs off 2 members are looking for a fur, but North, the Colosseum is huge onto Jay, who leaves for the purge, but the Spear of Near executes, is able to take it down. Simba wants to kill onto North, towards North, but he's not gonna find it because there's no one left. Dirty Lake and the boys ace Flowstate in 45 minutes on the right hand side.
And look at the death timers, TJ. 60 seconds for the Gideon. That is going to be the first one to respawn. They're just going to run down the mid lane. They should have enough time, have the Prime buff as well, together with Primal. And just again, superb team fighting. A bit too much hesitation by Flowstate. And it's DLAB pushing for the core.
Back and forward, back and forward. Such a swingy game between these two teams. And it comes down to that final fight at the All Prime Pits. But what a game one of this best of 3 series. 45.5 minutes. I mean, Twitch chat, we promised you a banger series. And this one's not it's got to meet the expectations as well. My mind is absolutely fried at the moment. I'm definitely going to enjoy my sit down at least. But holy, what a game one.
Yeah, I think after this one, I think we are allowed to be a bit out of words, because that was definitely a banger. 45 minutes. It's Flowstate completely in the driver's seat. They're about to win the game, get the Primal Fang, get everything in their favor. And then it's Loba just swinging the entire fight. Then it's Chase swinging the entire fight. And then suddenly we had 50 minutes in the game almost. And it is DLAB winning that game.
Again, took him a very long time. Mental has to be strong in these games because it is a best of 3 series. But we are going to take a much needed sit down and get some fluids. We're going to throw it back to the desk to break down that game further.
Thank you so much, TJ and Tang. I was definitely drinking my water during that game because who else was sweating? Welcome back to the desk. My name is Ardog with the Triple G. I'm back with Wango and Grady. Wow, these two teams were just neck and neck. Just a reminder that exclamation point bracket will take you to a link that shows the tournament bracket and the current scoreboard. And currently we just finished game 1, which favored Dirty Lake and the boys. There were so many fights here and there, and 25 minutes in, we were still 7-7 for both sides. The team fights were just so intense, but it came down to that final fight at that Prime Pit. Wangle, what just happened?
To be honest, that was one of the wildest games of Predecessor I've seen in a long time. Just super, super cagey. Zar's pun not intended. You know, both teams sitting off from each other, farming up. We hit level 18 like 10-15 minutes before the game even ended. And then just out of nowhere, Bomba, team fight starting. Everyone like going in, dying, flashes being blown everywhere. It was just... started off with DLAB over chasing into the F8 red side, getting caught out too far up there, but then it was just DLAB taking inhib, then F8 taking triple inhib, and then DLAB ended up being the winner out of, I don't even know, my mind's kind of blown.
Yeah, all of our minds were definitely blown. Grady, what were the highlights for you from game number 1?
I mean, Wangle said it best. Bomba. It was basically just like, I don't know. As a spectator, I enjoyed the game. There was a lot of action. Well, when there was action, right? But as an analyst and a player, the whole game, I'm just I'm half watching, half not looking, just because both teams know, right? It was throw into throw into throw. Like it was one team commanding position, able to try to close out the game, able to apply pressure. They make a mistake, other team capitalizes, so it's good play and bad play on both teams, right? So for me, I enjoyed watching the game, but I think both teams gotta tell themselves like, hey, it's game day, it's tourney day. When we're in the driver's seat, we gotta slow it down. Slow it down, stop making the mistakes, pay attention to positioning of our team versus enemy team. If we're going to run the 1-3-1 like Flowstate did when they had double buff and they were pushing to end, if you are the 3 and you get aggressed on by 5, back it up, let the side lanes push in. But they did end up getting triple inhib off of that. However, because they lost multiple members, they weren't able to close out the game, giving DLAB the opportunity to get another double buff. So there's 3 double buffs in that game, right? DLAB get double buff, Flowstate get double buff, DLAB get double buff, finally end up getting a team wipe and closing out the game. So both teams,
Very well said.
when you're in a spot to win, slow it down, and make sure that you close out the game properly.
We'll just have to see if they're gonna take your guys' advice, because I do urge everybody in chat to do this one thing. Please go get a drink while we take a quick break, because game number 2 is coming up next in this banger of a series, in this best of 3 between Dirty Lake and the boys versus Flowstate.